Okay, good evening, colleagues, and welcome to the 44th edition of the Tourism Online Forum Series in January 2025. And tonight we are delighted to have you joining us, which is this online forum is hosted by the Center for Advanced Tourism Research, CATS, at the Hokkaido University. This is our host, Mo. For tonight's session, it's indeed an honor to have Dr. Husna to share her recent research about unlocking Japan's potential in Muslim-friendly tourism. And Dr. Husna is an associate professor at the Faculty of Tourism, Wakayama University, Japan. And her main research revolves around the area of destination management, digital technologies, and service design. Combining her personal lifestyle as a Muslim and interest in the destination management, Husna Sensei has recently expanded her research in the topic of Muslim-friendly tourism development in regional Japan. It also connect with the Kaken. Husna Sensei strive to bridge the gap between the academia and industry practice by collaborating closely with industry practitioners in her research project. So this includes collaborate research with the regional destination management organizations, what we call DMOs, and Japan's National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology and SmartFi. And please note that this online lecture will be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel of the Center of Advanced Tourism Research. So now let's invite Husna Sensei to share her lecture. And please leave your comment and question below in the Q&A box. We also offer subtitle caption, so please click the subtitle function if you require it. Okay, Husna Sensei, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mengchu Sensei. It's definitely an honor to be able to share this very new research that I have embarked on. And I hope that other people would be able to at least learn something new regarding Muslim-friendly tourism. And as Mengchu Sensei mentioned, my previous research mainly revolves around destination management and marketing. And as I came to Japan, I then realized that this is a great potential to explore something that I'm passionate about, and there is a big gap to research into. So I hope that I could also spark some curiosity amongst our viewers. And if you do have questions, like Mangchu Sensei said, please do not hesitate to ask. And yeah, let's start with the first slide. So I know we have a few here. Some are Muslims and some aren't, I guess. So for those who are not Muslims, have you heard about these terms, halal tourism or Muslim-friendly tourism? These are terms that are popping up recently around the world, and maybe it sounds quite peculiar, or you've never heard about it, sounds different, but yeah. I don't know if we can even have an interaction. Not quite sure. Is it at the chat?
Sorry.
I was wondering, how could people type out whether they've heard of these terms before?
I think in general people are shy, so don't.
Okay, in general. So
Yeah.
if you haven't heard about these terms, this is the topic that I'll cover. And basically, we'll go straight first into the definition, and then later we'll learn the very basics. Based on the current literature we have, the definition of Muslim-friendly tourism is that usually it's an attempt to make the tourism experience enjoyable to observant Muslims. As such, it is almost akin to the concept of halal tourism, but in a wider context. So for those who have never heard about it, it might sound a bit something that you're not quite sure about. But usually for Muslims, what is very important to them is preserving the different types of food that is halal or permissible. And also meditation or prayers is also something important. So let's look at the definition further in the upcoming slides later on. But I'd also, before we look at what is the core teaching or what is Islam, I'd like to just point out on the current trend of the potential global Muslim market around the world. So, the global potential of the Muslim market based on a 2024 report is that in 2028, up to 280 million Muslims are forecasted to be traveling internationally. And these Muslims would most likely account to 225 billion USD in expenditure. Now, in terms of the population, as the years go by, we can see that the demand, well, the population or the demographics of Muslims will tend to be towards the 20 or between the 20s to the 30s and early 40s. So there's a growth in middle-aged tourist groups within the Muslim population. So that also impacts the type of tourist motivations, those who are more keen on exploring new things and new cultures. So based on this report and several other reports, they're highlighting there is an increasing trend of Muslims traveling around the world. And therefore, if a destination would like to try and cater to them, this is the right time. Uh, of course, this is just from the economic potential. There's many other aspects of why we should be more diverse in catering to different target audiences. So in terms of the report, they were also highlighting how they were comparing how the Muslim where Muslims are mostly traveling to compared to the global market. If you see on the right-hand side, we can see that most Muslims are traveling within the Asian region as the top place and Europe as the second top place to visit. And it's understandable because if we look at the recent report that the most appealing countries to visit by Muslims are countries such as Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, in addition to other Muslim countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Middle East. So we can see how even just in Japan, there will be a great potential to welcome more of this target audience to experience the beautiful culture of Japan. And maybe just like briefly, why is the Muslim travel market even growing? We can see from the demand side, which is the tourists themselves, and also from the supply side, which is from a destination point of view. So from a tourist side or the potential customers, we can see, like I mentioned before, there's an increasing in the younger generation who are keen on traveling and they have more purchasing power. And also yes, they are able to afford more international travels. And with the development of technology, they are more open to exploring different places. And as I said, so GDP growth, they are able to afford travel. And also nowadays, there's more halal awareness through digital connectivity. If we look at Instagram, on TikTok, and other social media, we can see more people sharing places to visit that are Muslim friendly. So therefore, there's more Muslims who are more excited and more courageous to explore off the beaten tracks. Yes. And then on the destination side, we can see that there's a lot of strategic destination diversification, meaning that destinations are interested to explore new target audiences. And so the Muslim market is also one of them was the target. And then there's also an improved understanding and communication between DMOs or Destination Management Organization. We can see that at least here, just in Japan, I can see DMOs in Wakayama. They are enhancing their understanding about catering to diverse needs, and they are now creating more workshops or seminars to allow Wakayama to cater to different needs, including to the Muslim needs. And then the last point on developing halal tourism ecosystem. This is often the case for countries such as Malaysia and also the Middle East, where they are exploring in developing ecosystems which connect various different businesses, government officers, and coaches within a whole platform. It's like a one-stop shop where people can learn and connect with each other. And just an example for Malaysia, we have the Malaysia Halal Development Corporation. It's a government level institution that tries to promote halal internationally and provides a specific structure to help international companies. And so maybe I didn't introduce myself properly before, but I am originally from Malaysia and now I'm working here in Japan. So it's very exciting to see the various different ways of development within this area. And so I've talked about the potential growth of Muslim tourism and Muslim-friendly tourism, but what is Islam and who are Muslims and how do they actually relate to each other? So in this session, it'll be a very brief introduction about Islam and a brief overview of the perspectives on how Muslims make decisions. So, what is Islam? So, at the very core, Islam means the submission to the will of God. So, we believe that there is only one true God. And so, Islam is about submitting to this God. And also, Islam, the core word, means peace. And so, spreading peace to this world. This is the core teaching. And I'm sure that some of you might have heard other different marketing strategies by different institutions. But the reality is, this is what Islam means. And for me, I believe, and all Muslims see Islam as a way of life. So it is a lifestyle. So similar to those who are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, they have a set of principles. For example, eating healthy, doing meditation, behaving in a certain way. So similarly, Islam provides a guideline on how to live this specific lifestyle and how to live your optimum life. At least that's how I see it. And who is actually a Muslim? So we relate it back to the term of an Islam. A Muslim is someone who follows the teachings of Islam and is a person who submits their will to God. And for Muslims, the name of God is Allah, which means basically there's only one God in this world who created everything. And so a Muslim is one who also does the declaration of faith that they truly believe that there's only one God and that the Prophet Muhammad is the last messenger of God. Now, why are these two aspects important and why is it important to actually believe the Prophet as the last messenger? Now, it goes to our next section, which is what guides the decisions of Muslims. Now yes, we can say that we submit to the will of God, but how and what are the guiding principles? How can we learn more about life? How can we learn more about this world? And so for Muslims, there are two main aspects where it is a form of where we refer to and which is first the Quran. The Quran is a sacred text of Islam, and it is the word of God directly, which within the Quran, which now you can have it as like a book. It's like a holy book called the Quran, and within it, it teaches the core principles. And these core principles will actually direct towards the types of travel decision makings and travel motivation later on. So within the Quran, which is slightly different from the Bible, if you've heard, unlike the Bible, where it's more about the stories, narratives of stories, the Quran goes even deeper, where it covers various topics, including theology, morality, history, and a lot of science also. Example of science includes the topic of embryology, astronomy, physics, geography, geology. So it is quite interesting, isn't it? And so that's why many of us believe it is the true word of God, because there are many scientific miracles that we would not have otherwise known many years ago. So Islam were the Quran was brought down actually around 1,500 years ago. So these are the core principles from the Quran that Muslims we learn from and try to apply in our life. Now, it's important to also believe and follow and learn more about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is because he provides an example to how all these core principles can be practiced in real life. So the Prophet is an example to living, is an example for everyday life, not just in terms of education, but also in terms of traveling and in terms of what to eat, how to pray, how to treat other people, and how to treat people justly. So there's another form of kind of like a book compilation, which we call hadith, which is the actions and sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So he provides the lifestyle and how to practice this lifestyle. Now, these are very the basic aspects. But it provides the foundation on how Muslims will make decisions in the future. So Muslims will refer to the core principles taught within the Quran and apply it with the actions that we have seen from the Prophet. And so let's look more about the travel and tourism from an Islamic view. So when I said before in the Quran, we follow the core principles within the Quran, I'd like to share some verses which relate to travel and tourism. So in the Quran, there is a verse, so Quran chapter 29, verse 20. It writes that, say, O Prophet, travel throughout the land and see how he originated the creation. Then Allah will bring it into being one more time. Surely Allah is the most capable of everything. What I'd like to highlight here is actually the motivation behind why Muslims are traveling. These motivations are related to the reflections on the beauty of God's creation. So they're reflecting on the nature, the beautiful sceneries, and also the various different cultures. And then another one, which I find quite, which has been guiding also my life, is Quran verse 14, chapter 49, verse 13, which says, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes that you may know each other. So verily the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous, and Allah has full knowledge. I can't really see further because we have the captions. But what I love about this is that it highlights how we should be visiting and traveling to other different locations, because God has created us into various different nations, different cultures, so that we get to know each other and also learn from each other. Now, I'm from Malaysia and I've lived in the UK, and now I'm living in Japan. There's many different things that are very different to my own cultural ways of doing. Some are things that are much better, and some are things that are being done differently. And here, as a Muslim, it's important for me to understand why people do things differently and how we can also adapt to the good things that other cultures are practicing. So for me, why I also joined tourism is because the love of learning of different cultures too. And this is at the core is also inspired from the Quran. So, and now briefly, how do Muslims actually make decisions? Because this will relate to later on the motivations, challenges, and opportunities within Muslim-friendly tourism. And this is very basic. At the very core, well, there are different terms which you can see. So on one side, we have a concept called halal, which is any action that is permissible. And on the other side, which we should be avoiding, is some things that are forbidden and which we consider as haram. I would say there are far more halal and permissible things that we can do compared to the haram options. What are the examples of permissible? So actually, if we learn, as I said before, Islam is a guideline to living. And within the Quran, it already teaches us every different step in our life, from our everyday life to how to treat our parents, how to treat your neighbors, how to treat travelers. In Islam, in fact, when we have guests, there's a way of hospitality where we should be treating our guest with our utmost omotenashi, especially within 3 days, the first 3 days. That's very important. And then there's also different guidelines on how to learn and how to travel. And within these guidelines, there's already a set sort of guidelines on what to do. So that's why we have permissible and forbidden. And so in terms of everyday life, in terms of eating, for example, when I'm traveling, there is halal permissible food and also forbidden food. For Muslims specifically, forbidden food would be what you may know is we avoid alcohol. And that because it's important that we are always able to make good decisions with a good mind. So that's why alcohol, one aspect is why alcohol is forbidden. And also pork, we do not eat any pork-based food that is considered forbidden. And then with halal options, for it could be seafood, vegetables, fruits, these are all permissible food. And how I see it, this guideline is meant to allow us to live a more healthy life, to be able to eat more healthier options and avoiding food that may be harmful to our body. So this is the very basic aspects. There's the halal and then haram. But actually within that, we also have other guidelines such as obligatory things that we must do called wajib. So obligatory example is praying. As a Muslim, it's very important for us to do meditation and reflection. This is to appreciate what we have. And this meditation is only about 5 minutes and 5 times a day. So I think that it's something very helpful for us to be more disciplined in the morning, in the afternoon, late afternoon, sunset, and before bed. We are always meditating for a short while and to reflect on the beauty of this world and to be thankful to what we have. And it was very interesting when I went to Kumano, well, Koyasan in Wakayama, they rang the bell 5 times. There's a very big bell in Koyasan, and they rang it 5 times a day. And this 5 times also coincided with the times for them to pray. In the morning, very like sunrise, afternoon, late afternoon, sunset, and at night. So I felt some sort of connection there. And it shows how even different religions and cultures prioritizes meditation and prayers. Then we have something called sunnah, recommended. And this is something that we could do. If we don't do, it's okay. But if we're doing it, it's better. And then there's another aspect, which is things that which is macro, things that we should be avoiding. It's not forbidden, but it's better not to do. Now, all of these criteria, usually in a Muslim's head, we already have, when we try to make a decision and in our everyday behavior, we're already seeing this view, this framework in our decision making. So in our traveling, so we want to go to Japan, for example, what are the activities? Are these activities something that is recommended? Or are these activities something that we should be avoiding? So a recommended activity would be more related to visiting learning more about culture, such as maybe doing matcha, learning how to cook Japanese food. But activities that we should be trying to avoid is usually avoiding places where it encourages intoxication, for example. So I think this is quite an interesting framework that might be something new for those who have never heard about Islam or Muslims. That in our mind, like to repeat, we have already a framework, a category of different types of behavior and different types of decision making. But of course, it's quite flexible depending on the different contexts. But we already have a framework. And this framework will be helpful for also those who would like to cater to Muslims later on. So this is basic. And I'd like to highlight which part of the tourism journey usually affects Muslim tourists the most. And in tourism, we have the pre-trip, during trip, and post-trip. Like I said before, some aspects that are very important to Muslims is the meditation aspect, to be able to pray, whether 3 to 5 times a day, depending on you are traveling or you are staying, well, usually we pray between 3 to 5 times. And then another important aspect is the dining aspect, where we avoid alcohol. And in Japan, one thing that I found quite challenging was because there was a lot of alcohol, such as mirin or sake, in many different dishes. So this was quite challenging at first. But as I learned further, I later discovered that in Wakayama, where we have they say the original soy sauce factory, the original soy sauce, they do not add mirin as an additive, as a flavoring. So for those of you who would like to have a more Muslim-friendly soy sauce, please do check out Wakayama soy sauce. And so, as I said, the biggest aspects that affect Muslim tourists is the aspect of eating, is the aspect of trying to find time to actually pray, not just time, actually trying to find a suitable place to pray. And then, of course, later on is the tourism activities, the type of activities we would be doing. We won't be doing pub crawls or exploring different pubs around Tokyo, but we might be doing a street market visit instead. So I have a very funny story about prayer. It relates to my challenge as finding a place to pray. And this was when I went to a cafe in Wakayama, and it was already towards the end of my prayer time. And I just wanted to search for a clean place. So as long as that place is clean, and there weren't many people, well, I tried to find a place that wasn't not many people passing by. So I went towards behind the cafe. There was a hallway, still part of the cafe. And I asked one of the cafe person staff saying, "Oh, can I just quickly pray at this, pray at this corner?" Now, if you try to imagine this hallway, I was praying towards, in front of me, there was actually an exit door. And this was behind the main cafe. So I thought, okay, it's just 5 minutes. No one's gonna see me. No one's gonna like be disturbed. So as I was praying, so in Islam, our praying positions is similar. I guess to can relate to something that you know. It's maybe similar to yoga, where first we stand and then we do a bow, and then we also prostrate our head to the floor. So we are, prostrating. So as I was praying, I was bowing. And then as I bowed, one of the staff came into the room from the exit door, and he was so shocked. And then he saw me bowing, and then he bowed back at me, and then he ran off. So I found that quite a funny story, where perhaps he was quite shocked. Why is this random foreigner just bowing at this corridor? And he felt the need to also bow back to me. But yes, it also shows the challenge of how Muslim tourists need to meditate, but they are struggling to find prayer spaces. Sometimes in the UK, they have quiet rooms, and this quiet rooms is usually meant for anyone to meditate. So that's really helpful. Here in Japan, because it's quite challenging to find that. I think most of us are praying in changing rooms because that is a space where it's clean, it's carpeted, and there's a empty space to actually pray. So that is some of the challenge that many Muslim tourists are facing in order to not just enjoy their travel in Japan, but also while practicing their faith. So yeah. So now that I've explained very briefly in terms of the framework of Islam and as Muslims, I'd like to introduce what is Japan currently doing regarding the Muslim travel market. We've learned just now that the travel market is growing exponentially. And so even in Japan, because there is a lot of policies surrounding regional revitalization, and they are also targeting and hoping that they could tap into the Muslim market. So, in terms of Japan's tourism goal, they are seeking to revitalize regional economies, create opportunities, and increase bilateral international understanding. And they are focusing more on regional revitalization. We have heard a lot of aspects in terms of over tourism in Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo. So, this is where actually Japan is hoping to bring these tourists to these regional neighboring cities. And a very recent, well, this year's news article from Japan Times, it highlighted how Japan is aiming to attract more vegetarian and Muslim visitors. So we can see that they are, well, Japan is interested to cater to Muslims. Then also in 2018, the Japanese government literally wrote down a strategy and a guideline on promoting Muslim-friendly to yes, potential tourists, but also to local businesses. Now, for those who are from the industry, as Meng Chu Sensei mentioned, we might have the people who are from the industry joining and watching this video or watching this lecture, you can try and check out this guidebook done by the government. And there are many different files and many different guidelines provided. Some are very basic aspects of how can you communicate to Muslim tourists and how can you make your restaurant or hotel more Muslim friendly. And so, even just for this year, Japan has been doing a lot of initiative to improve to make it a more welcoming environment for foreign tourists from diverse backgrounds. Now, let's just look at a timeline on this keen interest and what Japan has done towards Muslim friendly. Now, the first ever prayer space at the airport was actually created and developed in 2012 in Hokkaido. So they developed the first they established the first prayer space at the airport in a commercial space. And then later in 2013, there were more policies in terms of welcoming those from Malaysia, Indonesia, and other Muslim countries to come and visit Japan. So that's where we saw a surge of Muslim tourists initially coming to Kyoto. And as the years passed by, in 2014, we had more prayer spaces in other airports and in main shopping spaces where visitors and tourists were coming. And then in 2015, due to the power of technology and the internet, they were expanding other tourist hotspots to have prayer spaces and also halal certified Muslim friendly Japanese restaurants. And then there were more websites developing and providing tours for Muslim friendly. So in Osaka, you can also see many different Japanese-owned restaurants that make Japanese food, but it has been adjusted slightly to cater to Muslim needs. For example, for the ramen, rather than having a pork broth, they might be using a vegetarian broth or a halal chicken broth, or some even fish broth. And then in 2018, as I said before, they created the action plan and also guideline. And as the years pass by, towards the most recent years, we can see that there is a revival of Muslim tourists coming to Japan after COVID, and there are more Muslim restaurants being created and operating again. So just within the past 10 years or so, we can see that Japan has had an increasing interest towards catering to Muslim tourists, and Muslim tourists are also keen to visit Japan. And just briefly, these are some of the halal map created by all of these different regions. And so these are, some of them are made by local residents, but also some are also created by the local destination marketing organization, where they compile all of the different cities, restaurants, attractions, giving an outline itinerary and places to eat, pray, and visit. And so I'd also like to highlight that in regional destinations, they are becoming more interested in attracting Muslim tourists too. So, for example, in Okayama, they have a Muslim-friendly logo where if they see one peach, it shows, it means that that restaurant is Muslim-friendly and they might have a dish that is suitable for Muslims. Then with a two peach logo, it shows that most likely that this restaurant is a fully halal restaurant. And as I talk about regional destinations, I mentioned just now about Wakayama. Recently, just last month, the Wakayama City Council organized a very interesting symposium called Global Food Culture and Wakayama's Potential, exploring the future of inbound hospitality in Wakanora, opening up to the world. So this sensei, this lady here, she was she does a lot of research on halal tourism and Muslim-friendly tourism and gave a talk, introduction to these small businesses on how they can cater towards Muslims and the simple things that you can do. So it just shows how even regional destinations are very keen to learn more. And from the feedback that I was reading from the survey, well, survey feedback, most of the locals don't really know what halal means or what the challenges are, but they're really keen to be more inclusive to different dietary needs. So, while more regional destinations in Japan are eager to attract Muslim visitors, less research has been conducted to understand businesses and visitors' current perceptions, motivations, and challenges towards engaging in Muslim-friendly tourism. So this is where I decided to, you know what? How can we become more Muslim friendly, especially when businesses want to? And how can we attract people, potential visitors, to come to regional destination? So I received a Kaken research grant to explore this whole topic on Muslim friendly. So this research is still ongoing, but I'd like to share some very preliminary results from interviews with local businesses and also interviews with visitors who came to Japan. So how can Japan actually unlock its further potential towards within Muslim friendly? So let's look at some key learnings that I managed to find from the interviews conducted together with another researcher called Shahaya from Kyoto University. We looked at two different perspectives. So there's the visitor perspective and also the business local stakeholder perspective. Now, this image of this restaurant is a Japanese-owned restaurant, which is halal certified. So, Ramen Honolulu, they have in Osaka, and now they have expanded in Kyoto and also in Tokyo. Very delicious. And so when interviewed with the owner, he was just saying how he had friends. He previously owned a different ramen shop. He had Muslim friends who really wanted to experience Japanese food, but they couldn't. So he decided to, why not just open a Muslim-friendly restaurant where not just Muslims can eat, but also even local, anyone else, even other tourists can eat. And when I visited this restaurant, even I saw local Japanese people who were eating there alongside with other tourists. So we know that it is being Muslim friendly. You can still have authentic Japanese food, but just adjusting small ingredients. So first, let's look at the visitor perspective. Because of time limitation, I'll go briefly. So what would motivate Muslim tourists to visit Japan? First, it is to experience unique cultural and nature aspects of Japan. So, as I said, because of the teachings of Islam, to travel due to the motivation to reflect on the beauty of nature and God's creation. So, most of visitors are coming with this motivation for culture and nature. Then also accessibility, not just because of visa able to come, but also because of them thinking that, oh, Japan does have a Muslim-friendly guide. I know where I can go and eat. I know where I can pray. And also, what would motivate them to visit, especially in regional destination here, is the virality of destination. So, how viral it has been on social media. So, this is quite common, even if we compare it to other types of target audiences. And then, what are the most important factors for Muslim tourists when deciding to visit a Japanese destination? And especially when they are visiting regional places where maybe it's not well known within tourists, for example, Wakayama. Number one, the most important aspect is safety. Of course, that they feel safe as a Muslim, they feel that they won't be suddenly discriminated. So safety is number one, and this is why they could feel that sense of safety in Japan. And number two is sustenance needs, which is to just be able to have just to be able to eat something that they know does not contain forbidden ingredients such as alcohol, pork, and non-halal meat. So most of the visitors have well, nearly all say that certification, such as halal certification, is not a priority because they know in a non-Muslim country, things are, it might be slightly different. But what they do want to know is that they want to be able to know what's inside in terms of the ingredients, and they want to be able to make the decision. Now, here in Japan, the biggest challenge is that we don't know what the ingredients are in this food. Does it contain pork? Does it contain alcohol? Most tourists are unable to because it's written in Japanese. And so there needs to be a different way to actually allow and empower tourists to decide which food that they will be able to eat. Then, of course, the religious needs, which I said previously, in terms of prayer. It's important for them to be able to pray in a safe space. It doesn't matter, you don't necessarily need to have a specific prayer area, but even having a quiet room, a clean space where they can pray, that's really meaningful for them to enjoy their travels within Japan. Then, what other concerns or challenges faced by Muslims? These are, as I said before, language barriers. They feel disempowered as they are unable to understand the ingredients. Sorry, and also privacy, which is seeking private prayer space. So these two aspects relates to their faith-based concerns and faith-based challenges, which is food and also praying. And I can see we interviewed both men and female. We can see within female, particularly, privacy is a more important aspect for them for when they are praying. Now, we've looked a bit on what the visitors want and what challenges they face here in Japan. Now it's the business perspective. So we interviewed and spoke to local restaurant owners. We spoke to local DMOs, destination management organizations, looking at what were their challenges and opportunities to cater to Muslim friendly. So first, it was what are their perceptions towards Muslim-friendly tourism? So interestingly, when understandably, some of them said that the word halal seems as something foreign, and it could be scary concept because it's something very new and we don't know about it. And also here in Japan, there's a very big fear of making a mistake. And they worry that if they were to make a mistake, they worry that they might be disrespecting other cultures or religions. So that's what they initially perceived towards this new term Muslim friendly. And initially, they also thought that halal was only for Muslims, that only Muslims can eat halal food. But no, halal also means that basically anyone can eat. It just means that the ingredients only contain more healthy ingredients or ingredients or specific ingredients. And so a restaurant that caters to that has a Muslim friendly menu not only caters to the local tourists, but also to international non-Muslim tourists, but also to international Muslim tourists too. And what are the motivations to engage in Muslim friendly? So for the businesses who engaged in Muslim friendly or decided to provide more Muslim friendly tours and services, they were thinking about to increase economic benefits because we know that this year we have Osaka Expo and we will have millions of visitors from all over the world. So it was important in terms of economic side. That was one aspect or motivation for them. Then also, we can see many small, medium businesses, they want to increase the awareness and appreciation of Japanese culture. Now, the beautiful thing about Japan and many small businesses here, I can see how the grandpas and grandmas who own these businesses truly love their culture and truly want to share this beautiful food, dishes, and Japanese culture with other people. And so, because of their desire to share this is what motivates many of the small businesses, particularly, so they can support more diverse needs. Um, and related to that, some are motivated to cater to halal options is because due to personal friendships. That they had friends who were Muslims and really wanted to eat and try their food, but they couldn't. So that's what motivated them to be more Muslim friendly. Yes. And then what are the current challenges that many businesses face when engaging in Muslim friendly tourism? At the moment, there's incorrect or limited understanding of halal and Muslim concept. As I said before, it's something that is a new, just it's a growing phenomenon or growing target audience within the past 5 to 10 years. And so maybe not all throughout of Japan are aware about this sort of target audience. And so apart from limited understanding of what Muslim friendly means, some are also, they lack knowledge regarding supply in terms of where can I get halal mirin or where can I get mirin that does not have alcohol or where can I get meat that is halal certified, such as Wagyu beef, chicken, where can they get the supply from halal sources? So even though there are local Japanese sources which provide halal meat and halal supply, not all businesses are aware of this. So that is a challenge for them. And so, what can actually be done to assist tourism stakeholders to become more Muslim friendly? One thing, in terms of just to increase business willingness, is that because previously they said the word halal might seem something very foreign, and even in Japan, halal and Muslim is written in katakana, which is something foreign. So perhaps then it feels, in order to increase the willingness, it could be more culturally adapt to Japan. Now, when I went to China and also when I recently went to China, it was really easy to find a Muslim-friendly food because they are already aware about Muslim-friendly, but If you were to ask about halal, they wouldn't know, but they have a specific term, a specific Chinese term called qingzhen. And if you go and ask at restaurants, they would easily know, oh yes, this is a Muslim-friendly restaurant or not. So just suggesting that perhaps here in Japan, we need to consider a more close or relevant term to use to adapt to the culture here in Japan. So it doesn't feel too foreign, doesn't feel too scary. And also this, to the second point, contextual adaptation of Muslim-friendly services. And this is to say that if we look in the visitor side, they say we don't need that restaurant to be halal certified because we know this is a non-Muslim country. But we just want to know whether we are able to eat it or not. And usually, most small, medium businesses, it's maybe their food is already Muslim friendly, such as onigiri. But it helps for them to also empower through having signs, through pictograms, and also with small to start off with just small changes, which is rather than using alcohol, could you then change the ingredient to use something else? Whether could it be vinegar, or maybe you could use soy sauce without alcohol, which you can buy from a Wakayama factory. So rather than changing the whole sort of system, I think it would be helpful for businesses to just slightly change ingredients, replacing ingredients from alcohol to something non-alcohol, for example, and also to empower through having pictograms. And so including maybe meat and alcohol as a allergy. So sometimes in menus, they will have allergy lists. And this is where they will list, oh, this has peanuts, has maybe it has fish, maybe it has dairy. So I think it would be helpful for businesses to include meat and alcohol as one of the allergy icons in each of the dishes. And some restaurants are also creating a more Muslim-friendly menu that is totally separate. That makes it easier for visitors to know. Then another way of increasing business willingness, it's always helpful when you see other success stories from smaller businesses. And we could see this in outskirts of Kyoto, where this small restaurant or small cafe, because the owners knew they had a Muslim friend, they actually changed or adapted their menu to be Muslim friendly. And seeing how easy this is to change and adapt, the other nearby restaurants decided to also adapt, seeing that, you know what, why not? It's not it doesn't increase cost so much, and it's not too much of a hassle. So it helps to increase business willingness when we promote the other success stories from other smaller restaurants, for example. So because we're nearly coming to our time today. So I'll go straight into the conclusions. What we found from our research was that more Japanese destinations are interested and willing to become more Muslim friendly. However, there is currently limited or incorrect understanding of what halal or Muslim friendly is. So more guidance and support could be used for regional destinations to change business stakeholders' misconceptions about Muslim friendly tourism. And also, from a visitor perspective, there's a potential unique cultural and nature experiences. Wait, what did I write? Potential unique cultural and nature experiences, destinations accessibility, and visitors' prior experience in visitors' tourism hotspots would motivate Muslim tourists to visit regional destinations, particularly in Japan. So in Japan, you should promote the cultural and nature experiences to Muslims, and also, yeah. I'm sure safety is something that is already quite all right here in Japan. Then sustenance and religious needs become a focus when planning the actual visit to regional destinations. So destinations could consider how to provide Muslim-friendly food and how to provide a space where not just Muslims, but even other people of diverse needs could come and pray and meditate in that place. And so some challenges include language barriers, private prayer spaces when visitors are actually deciding regional destinations in Japan. And so, yeah, more guidance could be given to businesses on how easy it could be to provide Muslim-friendly services. So I also believe that we should focus more on Muslim-friendly tourism rather than halal tourism, particularly for Japan. The difference is halal's standard is high, but Muslim-friendly, it means that you are catering and expanding. There are some options for Muslims. You don't change your core. And the first step is just providing a small, providing a slightly bigger accessibility for Muslims. So that's why we should strive towards a Muslim-friendly development as the first stage. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Husna Sensei. It's so mind-blowing presentation and lecture. I really learned a lot. Maybe we can go to the Q&A session before we have a question come out. I think it takes some time. You can either raise up your hand and also put your question and comments below in the Q&A. Yeah, and okay, there is one question from the chat. Thank you for the lecture. How can the local community benefit from travel to the countryside as a destination? I don't know how this relate to your can you explain a little bit in detail how this question connect to this?
I think maybe if
Mm.
I can connect it, like
Mm,
also how can, if we were, because I said that we should promote more Muslims, oh no, regional destinations are becoming more
right,
interested in
right.
catering to Muslim
Countryside
tourists,
means
right?
regional destination. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So how can these local communities actually benefit from Muslims visiting their countryside?
Mm,
So one aspect is that, especially with community-based tourism, and also so I'm just trying to remember back. There are some local businesses or some local cities in Wakayama, such as in Tanabe, and then there's one I can't remember. By opening up to Muslim tourists, they will be able to host
mm,
and get more tourists to actually stay with these the homestays. These homestays are owned by the local communities. And so I've actually experienced one air bed and breakfast, which is owned by a local Japanese who married an Italian in Tanabe, and they created a uh, health kind of healthy tour there. So I went there up in the mountains, and they were people who were getting their own milk. They had their own lamb. They had their own sheep. They had their own other. Oh yeah, they made goat's cheese. They grew their own vegetables. So it helps with more of like rural, well, what's that? Regenerative tourism.
mm.
So at least now you can cater to more diverse target audiences, so more people would come. At least the people who would actually appreciate the nature and actually appreciate the local culture to then contribute not just economically, but also socially, where we can learn from each other. That form of communication and exchange, I think that was really helpful whenever I go to homestays in the countryside in
Mm.
Japan here.
Okay, wonderful. Good question. I think I never really realized the differences between halal tourism and Muslim-friendly tourism. This is my
Yeah.
first time to hear about this concept.
Yeah.
And also, I believe there is not as much research being done compared with Muslim-friendly tourism, compared with
Yeah.
other kind of tourism, right? There's
Yeah.
also probably people from what we so-called Western countries. They probably never realize this is an issue,
Yeah.
unless one day I had friend. They have the needs of prey. They have also needs of food. Also, like last week, I'm helping you basically choose food in China. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a lot of this kind of issues. So my question would be related to what are the uh, current research and current issues in Muslim-friendly tourism? Is this kind of research being already established, some theory, or it's at the beginning stage?
So I would say that a lot of the current research relates to halal tourism, and most of the research is in Muslim countries. So maybe the research case study is in Turkey, is in Oman, is in Malaysia,
Mm,
Indonesia, and there's
mm,
far less research in non-Muslim countries, in Korea or in Japan, and other non-Muslim countries. So I think there should be a slightly adapted framework of applying Muslim-friendly tourism in these emerging destinations for Muslims. Um, the challenge, I feel like the context is different when you are within a society that is already established within Islamic teaching and principles. It's easier to
mm,
apply it, and the challenges would be different. But we should also be more adaptable in terms of in other countries. But this research in non-Muslim countries, there's limited research here. So
mm.
I'm very curious, how can we adapt? How can we create the first step towards catering to these diverse needs? So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, thank you very much. I think overall your lecture really gave a very solid timeline and also analysis and so a lot of current issues. I think it's well structured. So let's wait for any more questions.
Would you
Wha-
like me to stop sharing?
Oh, maybe better should stop sharing.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, and Husna Sensei is very tired. She just come back from the conference in Hainan. I come back 2 days ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you have any question, please do
Or
not hesitate.
even
Mm,
even if you have comments, maybe you've had
yeah,
other your own experiences with a friend or your own observations. I would love to hear.
right. Even from our audience, we also have some friend from Hainan conference. I mean,
Oh,
yes.
lovely.
Yeah, if you have any question, please either raise up your hand. I believe everybody here can speak English. Mm. So yeah, okay. I want to ask how's your perspective as a foreigner, especially not from the Western country. Again, I hate this word, but I have to use it here. Your perception about tourism in Japan, how people really see your existence in their neighborhood, and also how the other international tourists see Muslim. I'm pretty sure the American Hollywood movie plays a very uh, one-sided interpretation or even misinterpretation about
Yeah.
Muslim culture and people. So I would like to hear about this part.
Yeah, so my experience as a Muslim tourist here in Japan,
Mm,
I personally, if I compare it to other areas or other countries or even Western countries that I visited, to be honest, it's far more pleasant to be a Muslim tourist here.
mm,
Yes, the challenge is to try to figure out, can I eat this? Can I not? But in terms of the people, it's far more peaceful,
mm,
far more nicer, and especially because I'm here in a rural area. I have many sometimes obachans and oji-chans who are just telling me, stopping me and saying hi and wanting to know more about me. And actually, in where I'm living, about is like not many even know about Islam. They've never heard about it. They've never heard about Muslims at all. So the
mm,
knowledge is very zero, but they come with a sense of curiosity.
mm.
So I really enjoy that. I enjoy if they come with curiosity and there's no uh they have not been brainwashed by media yet.
Mm,
So it's nice to hear their views and their perception, and also to discover how there's so many similarities with
mm,
the Islamic teaching, together with Asian teaching, with Shintoism, and even with Buddhism. So the values are similar. Sometimes the principles are also similar. And for me to just visit Koyasan to see that, oh wow, they're also praying. They have 5 times ringing the bell. And so
mm.
it's nice to learn how actually we're more similar than different.
Yeah, thank you very much. So far we don't have any question. Maybe we can close tonight's session earlier, so you can have a better rest after a long trip. And we are really looking forward to see your further development of your Kaken project. And this is definitely a very important lesson for Japan and also the tourism study network in Asian Pacific. And okay, thank you very much for tonight's lecture. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah, okay, have a great rest and thanks all of our audience and follow our lecture and well, looking forward to see you next time.